you are. I'm Charlie Simons, host of Do Not Talk. Talk about two things you're never supposed to talk about: religion and politics. Hello, my friend. I have a parent on the show today. Yes, a parent with two R's. Darren Parent is my guest, and he's with badgeusa.com. Back the badge. It is what you think it is, supporting law enforcement, but in a way that we don't think about as civilians. Now, military guy, yeah, I know that when things happen, when things drop quickly, oftentimes to mobilize a group of people, I mean, logistically, it's just insane. Trying to get troops moved, trying to get them in place, make sure that they're trained, make sure everybody's healthy, make sure everyone's fed, watered, put to bed, just like cattle. You got to consider all these things. You got a whole bunch of bulls that are ready to hit the front lines. You better make sure that they're ready to go. Logistically, just preparing for any kind of military operation is mind-boggling to me. So I have nothing but respect and admiration for those who do it. And as non-com, don't tell any of my other fellow non-com friends, but I have a lot of respect for officers, a lot of respect for the job that they do. We make sure it gets done, but we don't have to come up with the whole plan and all the weight on the world on your shoulders and all these people relying on you. We just have to implement the orders. So I actually really respect officers, and that's like a dangerous thing to say in a room full of sergeants. They can't get anything done without us, and vice versa. Calm down. We're all fighting for the same thing. But here's what happens: a lot of times we're ill prepared for the conditions of that particular battlefront. When we first invaded Iraq, we weren't ready. We didn't have armored personnel transport and patrol transportation armored against these IEDs, EID, the extemporaneous explosive device, IED. Yeah, that's right. Improvised explosive device. I need more ginkgo biloba, apparently, or coffee. And guys were dying. Guys were losing limbs. Guys were. It didn't have to happen if we would have been prepared for it, but we weren't. Didn't anticipate that. Stuff falls through the crack. So same with law enforcement. You're mobilizing a force to go after a problem, and oftentimes you're like, oh shoot, who didn't take care of that? Who didn't take care of this? How come we don't have this much needed thing? That happens. So filling in the cracks and making things happen is what this guest on my show does today. And I'm really appreciative of what he does, and I'm sure a whole lot of law enforcement personnel are also. Here's a little taste, and they have several of these videos if you want to see what they do actually at badgeusa.com. Go ahead, roll it.
Why is it so important for us in our smaller counties? You have to understand that our officers, especially our county officers, are maybe 5-10 minutes longer for EMS response to get to a bad traffic accident or a shooting, where now they have the tools to stop the bleeding, place tourniquets on there, and save lives. And that's why it's so important.
You mean they don't have emergency medical equipment in the actual patrol vehicles? Apparently not. Let's find out how they're changing that and what they're doing to make sure that we never lose any of our brave men and women who are going out there and fighting the fights for us. Make sure they have absolutely everything they need and stay protected, even when their own agency or government either has not or will not provide for them. Simple things. We'll get into that. How I helped raise during the first Persian Gulf War. Actually, the only one. When we invaded, actually, Kuwait, went into Kuwait to free those folks from Saddam Hussein and Iraq. Things that they needed in the Marine Corps that you would just assume they already had, and they didn't. Let's talk about all that right now and do not talk. Hit it!
Yep, here he comes. Riding his trusted steed through the Sierra foothills as he brings you the news.
Oh yeah! Oh yeah!
He calls himself
Charlie!
What you doing, Charlie?
Sorry, Charlie.
Hi, Charlie. There you are. Look how cute you are. Yeah.
Hey, Charlie. What's with the dark glasses?
And now, here he is, a man of God, living in a world of Disney.
Ow, Charlie!
Charlie Simons.
Charlie bit me.
Darren Parent, front and center. What's up, my friend?
Not much, Charlie. How are you doing today?
I'm borderline amazing. Let's get you closer to the microphone, though. You seem kind of far away.
Okay.
There we go. Emergency medical supplies aren't in patrol vehicles, aren't in sheriff's deputies' cars, aren't in highway patrol trooper vehicles. They don't have their own medical supply kit.
Well, just let me tell you what we have found in our research is that about 50% of the police patrol vehicles in the U.S. have no sort of medical equipment, nothing. Then the other 50% run the gamut anywhere from Simi Valley, California has AEDs and full paramedic bags. They have that in every vehicle. All of Ventura County actually has medical bags in all their vehicles, but Simi Valley also has the AEDs. So you got that on the extreme of the other 50%. Then on the other extreme of that other half, you got vehicles that have, I kid you not, like the $18 CVS, Rite Aid, triple antibiotic, Band-Aids. There's a certain chief in Arizona told me that's exactly what they gave us. They literally have that in the back of their vehicle. So as soon as we can, we're going off to that town in Arizona. But that's the gamut over there. But a lot of these places are further and further away from an ER or a hospital. And yeah, they need the equipment. So when they see someone that's injured, they see someone that's really, especially bleeding out, they can put something on like pressure bandage. This is a pressure bandage. It's very familiar to EMTs and to military personnel like Army medics and Navy corpsmen. Bleed Stop, we just got a donation of that from Bleed Stop. And we have 4 of these in our bags. This is called the CAT, Combat Application Tourniquet. It's what the Navy corpsmen carry in the combat and the Army medics when they follow the troops in. So we got this equipment donated to several police departments, 18 police departments, over 4 states, and a volunteer fire department. If you look at our website, badgeusa.com, it shows that we've donated $60,000 of medical bags to all these various departments. And yeah, because the equipment is needed. When somebody's in a world of hurt and they run into people bleeding out all the time, they can put that equipment on them as an intervention, stabilize them until the ambulance gets there. If they don't have the equipment, I can't describe the feeling of helplessness knowing this person's not going to make it 15 minutes for the ambulance. But if they do have the equipment, and that saves lives.
Do you think some of that might be because they're afraid of lawsuits? Because let's say you, as let's say you're highway patrol, come across a bad accident. Somebody has all but severed their arm and or had it severed. They didn't do it themselves, but and all that you need is a tourniquet to stop that bleeding. Otherwise, there's no stopping them from dying. They will bleed out. But if you actually render aid, I don't know about where you are, but well, no, you're California. California, you can be sued just for rendering aid as a civilian. If I went and helped pull somebody out of a burning car and they decided they wanted to turn around and sue me because I hurt their neck as I was helping them get out of a freaking burning car, they can sue me, and it's encouraged. So could that be one of the reasons why a lot of these agencies, county, city, state, don't supply that with people who are not actually licensed to be like an EMT?
Well, that is a concern for civilians. You're correct. But almost every member of law enforcement has advanced first aid training. Okay. And I'll just give you the example. In Wilson County, Texas, one of the videos there on our Wilson County page, the donation we did in April this year, Sheriff Stewart does like a little 25-second piece there. Sheriff Stewart and I were talking. They already had their deputies all trained in advanced first aid. They knew how to use all the equipment, but they went and retrained, refreshed, made sure they were up to speed 100% before they even deployed the bags. That's a concern, but it's not a major concern.
The litigation is not a major
litigious
concern?
states like California.
I imagine it's got to be. Because I'm wondering if a lot of times they're hesitant to do something for that very reason. They're afraid of lawsuits from some slug of a human being who just had their life saved. Now they're going to sue the county or the city or the state because they got a bruise on their left cheek.
Well, as I said, in litigious states like California, yes. I've talked to somebody who was a member of the LA County Sheriff's Department for many years. He's retired, LA County Sheriff. He told me in California, because they're so sue happy, that's why the LA County Sheriff's Department doesn't go out of their way to get the equipment. If an individual officer,
Yeah, I would imagine it's got to be a deterrent. I would imagine, even though it makes perfect sense. If not for the people that they're assisting, for themselves or for their partner that's riding along with them that gets hurt.
well, based upon the number of police chiefs and sheriffs we've talked to throughout the United States, they want this equipment. And if it were any kind of liability of any significant nature, they would politely tell us, nah, it's okay. We've got them stacked up like cordwood, the number of sheriffs and the number of chiefs that want the equipment. And like Sheriff Stewart, their people are already trained on how to use a pressure bandage, a tourniquet, etc. I can guarantee you they will put them through a refresher course to make sure everything is done right.
That's good. And I hate to say it, but civilians be damned. In many ways, we did this to ourselves by suing them for every stupid thing you could possibly think of. We've done this to ourselves. We've made this to where corporations have to put warning labels on shampoo bottles saying, not for internal consumption. This is pathetic how bad we have gotten, because there are really bad people who they'll do anything for a free buck. They'll do anything for a little payday and not have to work for it. Oh, I got hurt, so you're going to pay. I just saved your life. I don't care. You hurt me. So I'm glad you're still doing this, because That right there would be so frustrating. But it's nice that the departments realize this is an integral thing, but they can't supply it. It sounds to me like they cannot supply it themselves because of this legal entanglement, possibly. Otherwise, it makes sense. Why isn't it in every vehicle all along? Why isn't it? I just assumed that was standard operating procedure and that was standard issue stuff.
That was our assumption also. When we spoke to somebody who was a City of Los Angeles LAPD detective, captain detective, he said it was everything that they can do to get medical bags in the back of all their vehicles. It took them several years. They did private fundraisers. City wouldn't do it. Their association wouldn't do it. County, they had the LA County Sheriff's Department to deal with. They wouldn't do it for the Sheriff's Department. So they went out privately and they fundraised over several years enough money to get a medical bag in the back of every LAPD vehicle. It is a need, but let me tell you something. You're dealing with the politicians, even the ones that say they're friendly to law enforcement or they back the blue. Would Block was sheriff of Los Angeles County. He had a very good majority that were very much behind Sherman Block. If anybody could have gotten this done, it would have been Block. But you said lawsuits, yes. But another thing is the politicians always like to play the shell game when it comes to any kind of funding. And yeah, there's various chiefs and people I've talked to. They have to be restrained. I understand that. They can't say it. But retired personnel tell me it's a funding issue. You know, it's just a few $100s per vehicle and a little bit to maintain that equipment. So that way, 5 years down the road, you still got a tourniquet in there, much less the 4 you started with. And they just, you know, they just don't want to fund it. And meanwhile, some 9-year-old kid is bleeding out on the road that shouldn't be out after curfew. What happened here? Well, if the officer had that pressure bandage to put on him until the ambulance got there, but next thing you know, whose 9-year-old kid was that didn't make it? Oh, well, then they have all the equipment they need. It's like Victor Avila on our website. Victor Avila was in that ambush that the Los Zetas cartels ambushed him and his ICE partner back in 2011. And they were on a remote highway in Mexico. They got ambushed. He took a couple hits. His ICE partner took a couple hits. Victor will never say this because I wouldn't ask him to. But me and him were talking. They had no sort of medical equipment at all in a federal ICE vehicle. Had they had that equipment, well, Officer Zapata may be here today, but I'm just speaking for myself. Victor's a good friend of mine, great guy. And yeah, it's just a matter of the politicians don't see it as something that's a burning need, so they just ignore it. And yeah.
And that is in which state? They were ICE agents?
They were ICE agents actually stationed at the American Embassy in Mexico.
So that was
and they
federal.
were going up Highway 57 in Mexico, and that can take you to some very remote areas. And they were in a remote area, and several Zetas SUVs surrounded their SUV and just opened fire.
That sounds like a cartel hit, doesn't it?
Yeah, that was.
Insane, because I started to say here in California, any Republicans that do actually care and want to step up and assist law enforcement with this, what should be a simple understanding, this has to be in every vehicle. The Republicans, I do believe, once they were made aware of it, like I have been, I didn't even know till I met you through our friend Beverly Wirtz. Thank you, Beverly. I had no idea that this was even a problem. So you've been out there, you're just one little guy tooting the horn. Hey, look over here. They don't have this and they need this. And you got a whole slew of Democrats, and I'm talking about California now exclusively. I can't speak for other states. But they don't really care. That's not a winning issue for them. Look what I did to help law enforcement, especially Border Patrol agents and that kind of stuff. Oh, no, not in this state. They don't talk about, look what I did to help. And they don't do anything unless they can get some kind of benefit about it. A little boost, a little bump, a few more votes next election. Am I wrong?
Well, I'm not going to say you're wrong. That's you look at where the whole defund movement comes from. It doesn't come from here on the Rush side. It comes from over here on the Bernie side.
Yeah.
And they scream defund, but what's one of the first things that gets defunded? Any prospect of medical equipment, any prospect at all is dead. And sad thing is, there's going to be a lot of people that have that same status because these patrol cars don't have that equipment and are always running into those people, especially in remote areas where it's needed the most. This ought to be nonpartisan. This ought to be completely nonpartisan.
Completely right. Oh, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And if one politician did, let's say in my district, Kevin Kiley wants to introduce legislation making it mandatory for all law enforcement personnel to have this in their patrol vehicles at all times and maintained. How far do you think that would get to the legislature, and then it lands on Governor Hairdo's desk, and would he sign it? How far do you think something like that would even get?
It would essentially,
because it's that simple. At least for the state of California, it's that simple.
It's a simple thing. It's a common sense thing. It could be anybody's son, niece, nephew. It could be anybody.
Right.
That's on the side of the road in a remote area.
Uh-huh.
You can be on the side of the road 2 miles outside of town, but if you're bleeding out, you ain't going very far. And that police cruiser pulls up. But no. In California, I've lived here my whole life. I can tell you, that kind of bill in the 80s would have made it through. Okay. But today, they can't do that. It would be dead in committee. We're not dead on arrival. It wouldn't even make it out of committee.
It wouldn't even make it out of committee. He's absolutely right. And that's why I brought it up, to help drive home the importance of we need to support people like Darren and the group and what this nonprofit charity is doing. I think it's awesome. I wish you all the best. I want you to do well. I want you to succeed. I want to see this in all patrol vehicles. I don't care what it is, including state guards. Can't tell the National Guard what to do, but you could tell the state guards what to do. And so far, that's only military personnel, or medical personnel who get to carry any such thing. It's not standard issue in the vehicles, transport or otherwise. So where do we go from here, Darren?
Our website is badgeusa.com. What we would like to do is get as many donations as we can. We have some money, but it's limited. When you look at the very bottom of our website, you see the work we've done. There's a map there, and areas that have requested us, areas where we've gone, and all the areas that have requested us are not even on there. We still have a big old list. We haven't even added them to the map yet. We'd have to make another map. But when you look at the very bottom of our website, it says how much we've donated in medical equipment and what our impact has been. So we need to raise funds to continue the good work. Now, why any of the real big names have not heard about us or not picked up on us, we have done all we can to make that happen. Now, I will say that Dan Ball of OAN, he gave us a few minutes on his show, and he really spoke enthusiastically of what we're doing.
You're talking about OAN, or anyone who doesn't know, is One American News, which at one point was available on all the cable and satellite systems, and they've been deplatformed because they were way too honest in what's actually going on, and the world can't have that. OAN is fantastic. I'm glad they had you on, but they're just strictly, I think, online now, right? I don't even know if they're offered in your regular television. It's not on the where I live. We don't get it anymore, sadly.
Well, Dan Ball's a class guy. I'm glad he did that. But
Me too.
What we need to do is we need to get the word out of what we're doing. And if, we can get the word out of what we're doing, we could raise more funds, et cetera, et cetera. Here's what we want to do. We want to do this in Texas, but it wasn't right to do it at that time, that place. So we had a room full of people that just had a great old time. And we had meals served and all that. They sold a bunch of meals and raised some money for us that way. Thank you. But what we wanted to do there was we wanted to pack a park full of 1,000, 1,500, however many the park can hold, people that are there to celebrate our heroes in blue. And we're a first responder organization, EMS, fire, and law enforcement, because they all save lives. And they all wear blue to one extent or another. If you look at the fire uniforms and EMS, they all have blue in one extent or another. That's why we call them heroes in blue. When we get a big park and just pack it full of people, we can get a couple of bands from the area, 100-mile radius, come in and donate their day, and they would play, and we would have the whole thing lined out to where as one band gets off stage, we have a speaker come up, maybe a second speaker, and then we have, okay, Chief Johnson, such and such PD, could you please come up? Chief comes up, says a few words, and the first chief would be giving his talk. And on the back of the stage, we would stack up like soldiers. You have 34 vehicles, Chief, before he leaves. Take a look behind you. There's 34 medical bags you need to take with you when you leave. Folks, can we get some people from the audience to help him take these bags to the van?
Awesome.
And we do that for 3 or 4 or 5 departments over the time of the event. We have jolly jumps set up for the kids, face painters, balloon artists, stuff that mom is like, good. Bring the whole family out. Everybody has a great time. There's no tickets sold. It's free to attend. We have a couple catering trucks there. And we have 4 or 5 of these events throughout the country, wherever. And it's really a good way to honor the first responders, to give them the equipment they need, and to continue the good work. What we need to do is we need to raise more funds and go into one of the many areas that already have asked us to come in. And they'll be glad to pack a park with people. Hosts like yourself on the air to let people know this event is happening.
Heck yeah.
So
Help me
we're
out.
looking to do those kind of events, and it's no problem. It's easy peasy to do. We know how to put them together. We know how to take care of things on that end. We just need the money for the equipment, and everything else will take care of itself.
BadgeUSA.com. That's the website. That's where you go, and you can see what they do for yourself. Badge USA, BADGE USA.com. How did you, where did this come from? Where did this idea, other than what you were telling us about your friend, the ICE agent with the Border Patrol? This is a huge undertaking, buddy. Was this just you or a collection of folks, or it's probably a collection of folks now?
We have a collection of people. I'm just the face of it on this interview. One of our board members, Dallas Benson, she's a daughter of a fallen officer. She lives in the San Antonio area. Ironically, that's where we did our donation, was Wilson County, 30 miles east of San Antonio.
Yeah.
That's the big donation. But anyway, all of our board members take turns going on various programs like this one. Unfortunately, I'm the one that's doing most of them, but Dallas is going to be working into other programs, appearances, and stuff like that. As I said, she's the daughter of a fallen officer. And we're doing what we can. We're 100% volunteer. No one takes any money out of this. There's not. All the money goes back to the good work. All the money goes back to these.
That's it.
Which goes in the back.
Hold it up some. Wait.
Of a
Hold
police vehicle.
Hold it up some.
All right.
We didn't get to see it very well. I'm gonna put you on full screen, as they say.
When you look at our Somerton video, when you look at the Dan Ball broadcast, he has a clip from the Somerton video, and that's
fantastic.
That video, Gilbert, acquaintance of mine from that area, from Somerton, Gilbert opens up the bag and talks about the bag, etc., a little bit there. And that's great. I'm glad that Dan Ball had that on as a way of bringing me on and saying, here's what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, Dan Ball has a whole staff, and
yeah, I understand that.
On this show, you're looking at the staff. Um, me and my dog
Staff
Spike.
and Rod.
Yeah. So what did you do before that though? What's your day job? You gotta live, you gotta eat, you gotta keep the house light.
I I sell shipping containers, big empty metal boxes. When they're done bringing them over here from China on that one trip after they've been built, that's how you get a one trip unit. Because Walmart and Target needed to have their stuff in it when it came over here. Now that it's empty, someone wants to buy the container. That's what I do.
I had no idea that they were one trip and done, one and done. I had no idea.
Not all of them, but when you get one that's in that category of brand new one trip, some one trippers can get a couple dents on them as they're being loaded and unloaded on that ship, but that's the best condition you can get. So, and then you've had other containers that have gone on for a period of time. They've been used for a while. There's various categories and all that. And that's basically them selling their equipment that they use, that shipping company, to people who want to buy it. So
Wow.
it's a whole wonderful thing in and of itself. It's a world that when I first got into the container business, it's like my friend Crystal was helping me, and she'd been in used car sales, I'll say, for 30 years. She said, Darren, the container sales business is so interesting. It makes used car sales seem like we have great integrity. So I understood what she was saying.
Yeah.
So we just did things differently, and it attracted a good element of people that, hey, they want what you say they're going to get. That's what's going to pull up in front of their house. And they're like, oh, this is just what they said I was going to get. Whew, great. But
Yeah.
it is swimming with the sharks. It's competitive. A lot of fun, though. A lot of fun.
That's a first for me. You're the very first shipping container salesman I've ever met. Used shipping container. Because if it
Do what they
was a new
want.
one, you got a ready-made market ready to go. But a used one, man, you got to cover a wide net of here's what we've got. And not everybody has the kind of property to take that on or take one of those in. And so I know a lot of people are turning them into little homes.
See, the thing is, that's why pods make so much money. Pods will go and they'll put that thing in your driveway. You just got to make sure you're compliant with your city and all that and everything. They'll put it in your driveway. They'll take it away. They'll do all that because not everybody has the room in their backyard, even for a 20-footer. So,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
it's a competitive business.
That's interesting. Really interesting. Wow. Badgeusa.com, badgeusa.com. Darren Parent, thank you, my friend. Anything you want to let us know about that I may have forgot to ask?
No, I would just ask that if anybody knows somebody or whatever, if they can send us any references, badgeusa.com, go ahead and hit the contact form. It's the usual contact form. Gone are the days when you could have your number and all this. You can't do that with bots now. So you have to go through the CAPTCHA and all, but leave us a message. If we can get donations, that would be great to have that happen. But we'd like to keep in touch with you, Charlie. And if you want to even attend one of our events, that'd be great. I mean, there are areas here in California where the chiefs have told me, we don't have that equipment. We'd love to have it. You ever see that movie Best of Times of Robin Williams
Uh-huh.
and Kurt Russell?
Right.
In that general area, I won't say where.
Well,
I
that's where
spoke
my
with
dad,
you.
that film is actually based on a town where my dad was born.
Well, in that general area,
Okay.
I spoke to a chief who said, we don't have that equipment. We'd love to have it. And this is in California, so they know the liability. They'll train their people like you can't believe to make sure they know how to and make sure everything is covered. They really want the equipment. And there's several police departments in that general area. I can't name them, but it's like, yeah. And there are many areas. The town where Elvis was born in Mississippi, in that area there, in the Tupelo area, people want us to come out there. It's like, wait a second, don't have the funding. But once we start getting momentum, hopefully the big names out there hear about us and we can just keep this
I
going.
hope so too. I want you to do great because I am actually understanding more than ever. First of all, I never knew that it was a problem because I just assumed that it was all taken care of. But I also now understand the difficulty for departments, whether they're city, state, or county or state, um, and sheer logistics of getting it through approval, the approval stinking process through a board of supervisors. Can you imagine? And then the cost of it and all of that. So as as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I worked with a group of Marines who were putting together things that they needed on the ground when we invaded Iraq. This was during Desert Watch, and then became Desert Storm in '90 and then '91. Um, I was one of the ones in the Bay Area spearheading all the collections for that. Things that you just assumed they would have. They're going to the desert. They didn't have sunscreen. They're going to be where they don't have electricity in there, lights out at a certain time. Most of it was generator power. It's not like they can plug into the grid. So they didn't have reading materials to read when they weren't, working on patrol or whatever they were doing when they were on duty. Um, they had no reading material. They had no sunscreen. They had no chapstick, no lip balm in the frickin' desert. They had what? Oh, bottled water, son.
Oh,
You would
yeah.
have thought that would have been supplied. It wasn't. They needed water and they needed it yesterday. So we put together, working with the Red Cross, this huge whole Bay Area centers where people could donate these different things. We're going, here's what they need. Please bring some. And please don't make it used. Bring some new in its original packaging, please. And we will get it to the troops who are now on the ground in
Yeah.
Desert Watch. And it was huge, huge success because people like, civilians didn't know. We just assumed they were taken care of, and they weren't. And once people realize that and learn it, that's why I'm so glad you were on the show, and I hope I can help you get on some other shows to get this word out about what you're doing, because it's very important, my friend. Thank you for doing it.
Thank you and Godspeed.
Right back at you. I am Charlie Simons, and if you want to help with the show, you can at venmo.com/do not talk. That's venmo.com/do not talk to keep this show on the air, or buy yourself some great American-made products from MyPillow. MyPillow.com, over 100 products now at his online store because the big box stores took Mike Lindell's products off of their stupid, lame shelves. No more MyPillow products in the big box stores. That was a concerted effort to shut him down and shut him up. Why? Because he dared to question the elections, which are completely rife with fraud. And he dared to bring it up, and the politicians aren't. So he, as a private citizen, like Darren here, Darren Parent, saw a need and went, okay, nobody else is talking about it. I'm going to put my fortune on the line, because if we don't fix this, we're losing our country. And the corporate world backlashed hardcore, trying to ruin him, and they almost did. So now he's online. Support that, please, at mypillow.com/Lee. Lee is my middle name. That can get you up to 75% off. American-made products. mypillow.com/Lee. May God bless you and keep you. May God bless America. But most importantly, America, bless God.